Picking up where we left off, hello YouTube, I am once again trying to survive Minecraft hardcore mode while also reviewing my homework at the same time. Which again, terrible idea, but we're committing to the bit. So if you're new here, the whole concept is I play until I die, like fully delete the world, no coming back, hardcore. While I'm doing that, I talk through whatever I've been learning recently. So here's the topic of my last paper. We are not talking about Minecraft at all. We are talking about this place called Akrotiri, which sounds like kind of a random, but it's actually one of the coolest archaeological sites ever, because it's basically a Bronze Age city that's frozen in time. And I'm not even exaggerating, like it was literally buried and preserved. So Akrotiri is on the island of Thera, which is modern-day Santorini in Greece. And location-wise, it's sitting right in the Aegean Sea, in the Cyclades, which is kind of perfect if you're trying to be involved in trade. Like you're not tucked away somewhere, you're right in the middle of everything. And that's important, because Akrotiri wasn't just some tiny village. It actually grew over time into a pretty major city, especially during the Middle Bronze Age. People were living there as early as the 5th millennium BC, and then over time it just kept developing into something more organized, more structured, more urban. And the reason we even know all of this, and this is the crazy part, is because of a volcanic eruption, like a massive one. The eruption basically covered the entire city in ash, and instead of just destroying everything, it preserved it. So buildings, objects, even wall paintings are still there in really detailed condition. So yeah. The disaster is literally the reason we can study it now, and one of the big ideas when people study Akrotiri is that it wasn't isolated at all. It was more like a cosmopolitan place, really connected to cultures, especially Minoan Crete. So instead of thinking of it as its own little world, it makes more sense to think of it as part of a bigger Bronze Age network. Now, as for how we actually found it, this archaeologist, Spyridon Marinatos, basically suspected there was something near a modern village, and he was right, which is kind of insane. And then later on, more archaeologists kept working on it, especially Christos Doumas, and now they've been slowly uncovering the site ever since. And the way they do it is really methodical. They look at different layers, especially what's called Middle Minoan 3 to Late Minoan 1A, which basically helps them figure out how the city developed over time, which is great for them. Slightly less great for me because I'm still trying to remember all this to create shelter for the night. Okay, so architecture. This is where Akrotiri actually gets kind of insane, because when you picture a Bronze Age town, you might think kind of messy, maybe small, not super organized. That is not what's happening here. The city is actually really well planned. There are streets, drainage systems, multi-room buildings. People knew what they were doing, like this was not random. And the buildings themselves are also super advanced. They use something called an ashlar masonry, which basically just means really well-cut stone blocks combined with rubble to make the structures strong but also flexible. So not only are they building, but they're building well. And then inside the house, it gets even more interesting. Like we're talking multiple stories, actual multi-level buildings, central columns holding things up, built-in cupboards, little wall niches, upper floors. Like this is not primitive, this is a thought-out living space. And it also shows that people were thinking vertically, not just spreading out across land. One thing that always stands out is that Akrotiri doesn't really have any heavy fortifications or walls. Like if you compare it to other Cycladic towns, which are often built to defend against attacks, Akrotiri feels open, which is again interesting because it means they relied more on trade relationships and connections than walls. Like security being connected instead of being closed off. Honestly, I think that kind of ties back into the whole idea of its cosmopolitanness, I guess. Also, if I die here and not make the shelter work, that'll be okay. We'll figure it out. And then in terms of visual culture, which is probably the most famous part of Akrotiri, the wall paintings here are actually incredible. Like they're not just a few pieces, they're everywhere. Almost every major building has them, which already tells you the art wasn't just for a tiny elite group, it was part of everyday life. And gorgeous. And the reason they're so well preserved is again the volcanic ash. It basically sealed everything in place, and the paintings are frescoes, which means they were painted onto wet plaster so the color actually becomes part of the wall itself. Stylistically, this is what people call Theran style. So you get these really natural looking scenes, plants, animals, people, landscapes, papyrus, like that one meme, and a lot of them have this bright, almost white background that makes everything stand out. And they're not stiff or symbolic in a boring way, they feel alive, like there's movement. There's energy and there's storytelling happening. Some show ships and maritime life, others show rituals or daily activities, and a lot of them connect really closely to the rooms they're in, which is important because it means the art isn't random, it's intentional and reflects what space is used for or what kind of message the people living there wanted to show. So now you've got architecture, you've got art, both super developed, and then you look at the economy, and then it all starts to connect. Akrotiri was heavily involved in maritime trade, like this place was plugged in. They had access to luxury goods, interacting with our other islands, especially Crete, and they were a part of a much bigger exchange system. So there's also evidence of viticulture, wine production, which means they weren't just trading, they were wrong, and producing valuable goods too. So it's not just like that we exist and then everything stops because of the eruption. It wiped out the Bronze Age city in one moment, like Pompeii. But even though the site is abandoned, the culture doesn't disappear, but continued in different forms later on. People were able to escape, take their valuables, and shows us that they had some sort of forewarning. So, interestingly, historically, when we look at Akrotiri in the bigger picture, there's this debate about how connected it was to Minoan Crete. Was it controlled by Crete? Was it a colony? Or was it something else? And most people now think it's not just colonization, but cultural influence, adaptation, limitation, exchange, using Minoan styles and architecture, but still its own place. This suggests it isn't just a one-off, but a whole network. So instead of one dominant culture spreading outwards, it's more like a shared identity forming through trade, like globalization, which is wild to think that I'm stuck in a cave right now, but I guess it all connects somehow. So yeah, when you put everything together, Akrotiri isn't just important because it was preserved, but important because it shows how connected, creative, and complex Bronze Age societies actually were. It all overlaps, and it points to this idea of cultural synthesis, which is a very fancy way of saying they influenced each other, and honestly, that might be the most relatable part of this all, because even now, everything we do is shaped by what we're connected to. Thanks for joining me today on this episode, and we actually made it through the night. Praise the Lord, and I'll see you next time.